resolved. There are no longer sewer in the streets of Mfuleni. On the roadmap for the freight logistics system in South Africa, the Department of Transport has commenced consultations on the roadmap for the freight logistics system in South Africa as part of the measures to address the challenges facing the freight and logistics sector and the strengthening of South Africa's economic recovery efforts. You'll recall that we've got the National Logistics Crisis Committee, and this consultation helped to fast-track the impact of the work that is being done under the NLCC. On infrastructure development and maintenance, Cabinet welcomed the progress being made with the infrastructure development and maintenance, with the completion of 36 rural bridges under the Welisizwe Rural Bridges Program, and the construction that is underway on 20 projects in human settlements, roads, and water. On the relaunch of the South African Airways international routes, Cabinet welcomed the relaunch of the SAA international routes with the reintroduction of its intercontinental flight to Sao Paulo, Brazil, which also marked the return of the long-haul service out of Cape Town and Johannesburg. The return of SAA in the international routes will contribute directly in driving growth in international travel to the country and growth of the tourism sector after the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic. On the launch of the largest drone in Africa, Cabinet congratulated the Defence and Aerospace Company, MILCO, on their successful launch of the MILCO 380 Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, or UAV, which places South Africa among the countries that continue to make strides in drone technology. The MILCO 380 is the largest drone built in Africa, and it will be used by the defense industry for combating, for border control, conservation efforts, including combating poaching. On matric and school examinations, Cabinet welcomed the smooth start to the 2023 National Senior Certificate exams, which commenced on the 30th of October 2023, the ones that stood between us and our holiday. Parents and guardians are encouraged to continue to support learners during this critical period. Cabinet sends its well wishes to all the learners who will be sitting for their year-end exams in addition to the matric end. On Cabinet decisions. On the situation in Palestine. I need to make sure I got this right. Cabinet is disappointed by the refusal of the Israeli government to respect international law and the United Nations resolutions with impunity. The humanitarian corridors remain closed due to the continuing attacks of the Gaza Strip by the Israeli government, which is increasing the death toll to more than 9,500. The airstrikes in Gaza and the West Bank continue to attack schools, hospitals, ambulances, and civilians. As previously indicated, a genocide under the watch of the international community cannot be tolerated. Another Holocaust in the history of humankind is not acceptable. And the South African government has decided to withdraw all its diplomats in Tel Aviv for consultation. Cabinet has also noted the continuing disparaging remarks of the Israeli ambassador to South Africa about those who are opposing the atrocities and the genocide of the Israeli government. This is despite the condemnation by the previous ambassadors of Israel to South Africa, who were clear that the acts of the Israeli government are a repeat of apartheid and not different to the apartheid antics. The position of the ambassador of Israel in South Africa is becoming very untenable. Cabinet has decided to instruct DECO to take necessary measures within the diplomatic channels and protocols to deal with the conduct of the ambassador of Israel to South Africa. On the medium-term budget policy statement, Cabinet welcomed the 2023 medium-term budget policy statement, which provided a frank assessment of the current economic climate and demonstrated a government's firm hold on our nation's finances amid tough revenue constraints. The decisions in the MTBPS improve our fiscal framework, stimulate economic growth, while balancing our social commitments that support the vulnerable in our communities. The Economic and Reconstruction and Recovery Plan has contributed and continues to contribute to the recovery of the economy of South Africa after the ravages of COVID-19. On matters related to economic recovery, on the high-speed rail development, Cabinet approved the high-speed rail development framework and the financial implications for implementation, and the financial implication will be discussed between the Ministers of Transport and Finance. Cabinet approved the prioritization of the Johannesburg to Durban corridor for a detailed feasibility study by the Department of Transport in partnership with industry, and the Johannesburg-Polokwane to Musina corridor and the Johannesburg to Mbombela corridor will be put to the market. On the draft white paper on citizenship, immigration and refugee protection, Cabinet approved the publication of the white paper on citizenship, immigration and refugee protection for public comments. The draft policy aims to provide a framework to guide the granting of residency and citizenship to foreign nationals, as well as the protection of refugees and asylum seekers in South Africa, cognizant of the Republic's national security interest and in compliance with the international agreements and protocols on immigration that South Africa is party to. On the 6th Annual Progress Report on the implementation of the White Paper on the Rights of People with Disability, Cabinet has approved for publication in the Government Gazette the 6th Annual Progress Report on the implementation of the White Paper on the Rights of People with Disabilities. The publication of the Progress Report will coincide with the international commemoration of the Disability Rights Awareness Month from the 3rd of November to the 3rd of December. The Progress Report also signals an increase of the minimum employment equity target from 2% to 3% for persons with disabilities as from the 2024-2025 financial year towards a minimum 7% employment equity target for persons with disabilities by 2030. On bills, the draft African Renaissance and International Cooperation Fund Bill, Cabinet approved the submission of the draft African Renaissance Fund Bill, Amendment Bill to Parliament. The bill seeks to amend the ARF Act 51 of 2000 and establish the South African Development Partnership Agency that will serve as a mechanism to support South Africa's development and cooperation with sister countries through the promotion of democracy, good governance, the prevention and resolution of conflict, socio-economic development, and integration. On appointments, all appointments are subject to the verification of qualifications and relevant clearances. First is the appointment of Mr. Ibrahim Rasool as the chairperson of the Development Bank of Southern Africa. And second is the appointment of Ms. Margaret Musubudi Phiri as a member of the National Nuclear Regulator Board. Upcoming events, anti-corruption dialogue. Cabinet in November 2020 approved the National Anti-Corruption Strategy. This is a country strategy that is aimed at creating a corruption-free society while encouraging citizens to have a zero tolerance for corruption and abide by the rule of law. The anti-corruption dialogue will be held on the 8th to the 9th of November 2023 at Bashwood Hotel in Ekurhuleni to mobilize society in the fight against corruption in line with the country's national anti-corruption strategy. 16 days of activism campaign for no violence against women and children. This year marks the 25th anniversary of South Africa's participation in the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children campaign, which will be observed under the theme accelerating actions to end gender-based violence and femicide, leaving no one behind. This global campaign runs from the 25th November, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, to the 10th of December, which is the International Human Rights Day. It aims to combat violence against women whilst upholding human rights. The 14th Policy Dialogue Forum. South Africa will co-host the 14th Policy Dialogue Forum in collaboration with UNESCO International Teacher Task Force for Education in January 2024 under the theme Addressing Teacher Shortages and Making the Profession More Attractive. The forum will bring together government officials, NGOs, teachers, and education experts to discuss critical issues pertaining to the conditions of service for teachers, issues of teacher autonomy and accountability, as well as how to make teaching an attractive profession. On congratulations, Cabinet extends its congratulations and well wishes to the Proteas for making it to the semi-finals of the Cricket World Cup 2023 in India. Despite the setback of yesterday, our team has made it to the semi-finals, and we rally behind the Proteas as they attempt to make history and win the Cricket World Cup. The MotoGP racing star, Brett Binder, who is now the outright Premier Class podium record holder for South Africa after his top 3 finish at the Thailand Grand Prix. To South Africa's first pro wheelchair bodybuilder, Maqetandile Kolati, for defending his title at the 2023 International Federation of Bodybuilders and Fitness World Championship in Slovenia. To the South African Chartered Accountants for earning the top position in the Elderman Global Professional Trust Survey. To Dr. Claude Mashigo for winning the inaugural Miss World South Africa and shall now represent South Africa in the Miss World in New Delhi, India in December. To Advocate Koleka Xaleka, following her appointment as the new public protector for a term of 7 years with effect from 1st November 2023, Mbokoto and the dream of the girl child are real. On condolences, Cabinet expresses its condolences to the family and friends of the Paralympic gold medalist Zanele Situ, who was the first black South African female athlete to win a gold medal at the Paralympic Games in Sydney in 2000. To the family and friends of former Bafana Bafana assistant coach and football legend Phil Mr. Jones Sitsedi. Warrant officers Thembiso Mazibuko of the National Intervention Unit, who was killed during the shootout with criminals in Ntuzuma, KwaZulu-Natal, where despite his loss of life and the gallant contribution he has made to the fight against crime, the police came on top. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the comprehensive post-cabinet statement. The statement will be shared as soon as we are done with the necessary dotting of the I's and crossing of the T's. Let us invite first the questions. I will check in the press room, and then we'll take, I think, the first 4 on the visual side. The normal drill, you'll introduce yourself and the media house and the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kenny Makana from SABC News. Morning, Minister. I have a question from the international desk who's asking for a comment on last night's bombardment by Israel and threat to use nuclear on Gaza. And then just secondly, following the statement you've made about the withdrawal from Tel Aviv, you follow up with processes that you've instructed DECO to start with. Can you take us into confidence as to what exactly that means? And then the last one, on the, just a different topic, so the city special permit, is there a clear decision from Cabinet regarding whether in December you're looking at that possible 90-day visa that was discussed during the DNC, or if a renewal could happen come December for the Lesotho nationals?
Thank you very much, Kenny. Minister, maybe we can take also the online questions so that we can package them the same way. Ishmael?
Thanks, Chair. I'll start. While the box win has inspired the entire country, with South Africa continuing to celebrate the Rugby World Cup victory, any comments regarding the EFF leader condemning the Springbok name and emblem? Andy Siwe, Makinana Times Live and Sunday Times, when Cabinet instructed DECO to take measures against the Israeli ambassador, what sort of action can be taken against him? What did Cabinet have in mind when it gave DECO this instruction? The next question, Christian Duplessis, Network 24. Will the Minister please elaborate on what is meant by the South African government? Will it withdraw its diplomat in Tel Aviv for consultation, and what will be the consultation be about? Will the South Africa consider closing the embassy in Israel? Next question is Marvin Adams, freelancer. Minister, can you clarify the South African government's stance on the Israeli-Palestine conflict, given that the administration maintains diplomatic ties with Israel while also hosting the AGOA Forum, and where the U.S. being criticized for its role in contributing to regional instability? How do you reconcile these seemingly contradictory positions, and what is the government's strategy for addressing this complex diplomatic situation? Zinke Matlaki from News 24. On the Israel ambassador's presence in the country and DECO being asked to deal with the matter, will the government consider expelling the ambassador? Also, can the minister clarify which of its officials will be removed from Israel? And does this mean a complete closure of ties with the country? We have Terence Creamer, Engineering News. Please, could the minister outline the process and timing of the consultations that have been launched on the freight and logistics roadmap? And what will the status of the roadmap be once approved? Can I continue?
Continue.
Christian Duplessis and Network 24. Why is the presidency not taking action to ensure that the legal costs paid by the state to former President Jacob Zuma's corruption litigation be recovered? Why can the presidency not provide a guarantee that a court-ordered litigation to recover the cost will be launched before the claim that allegedly prescribed in March 2024? And Sioma Kinana again, what skills and relevant experience is Mr. Ibrahim Rasool bringing to the GBSA? Christian Duplessis, a follow-up from Network 24. And when will the SA government withdraw its diplomats and all the diplomats? We have Federal Havaji, Daily Maverick. Is South Africa considering expelling Israel ambassador? Is SA engaged in any peace talks to ensure a ceasefire in Gaza and Palestine? What can SA do in terms of the ICC to ensure adherence to international laws of war by Israel? We have the last question, Paul Viciato from Bloomberg. Could the minister please provide more details about what led to the complaint against the Israeli ambassador, and if the recall of SA diplomats will be permanent or temporary, and if the latter, for how long? That's all for now.
Thank you very much, Ishmael. Thank you very much, Minister. Quite a handful of questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start by the issues that were not dealt with by Cabinet. Cabinet did not discuss the Lesotho special permit, and you'll recall the BNC took place just over a month ago, and the working of that will be underway. I'm sure Home Affairs will brief and update on that status of those permits. And there was also another question. I'm going to then deal with the questions that are not related to the Palestinian situation and the conduct of the Israeli ambassador first, and then we can then finish with the other ones. There was a question about the skill, what Mr. Rasool brings to the table. The profile of Mr. Ibrahim Rasool can be viewed from the website of the Development Bank of Southern Africa. And then there was a question around the legal action, the legal cost of former President Zuma. It was also not part of the discussion. We'll get the presidency to respond on that question from Christian du Plessis. And then there was a question from Engineering News about the consultations on the freight logistics roadmap. So what we are doing on the freight logistics roadmap, we're going to have two sets of consultations. The first consultation is with a critical player before it goes to public consultation and come back to Cabinet. So they're busy consulting your Transnet, the business sector that are players in that space, your PRASA, everyone who participates in that space, what you call your stakeholder consultation. That's what is currently underway. You do that so that the draft that gets approved for consultation in the public, at least it has taken in views and proposals from what you'll deem as expert forum. So that's what the Department of Transport is now finalizing, so that they can then go out, come to Cabinet, and we go out to consult for public, so that we can then have the general view of the public. In terms of timelines, you'll recall that when the President was updating on the on the economic recovery last Tuesday, he indicated that our work is at earnest, so they should come back in the next Cabinet cycle, which should be in January, because we are going to the end of the Cabinet cycle for the December, and then the next, not January, February, as Cabinet reopens and the year comes through. Then we'll finalize it within the year. So on the questions around the conduct of the Israeli government, it is for that reason that we are worried with the continuous bombardment, the threat of nuclear. And you'll recall the previous Cabinet statement, we indicated that the failure by the international community to hold Israel to account and to stop the impunity and the genocidal acts that the Israeli government is doing to the Palestinian people will mean a total collapse of a multilateral system and a collapse of the global system of governance. And a world order that does not have a multilateral governance order or a multilateral system that reigns in everybody, it's bad for the world. Imagine who will stop the detonation of nuclear bombs from the other side, who have threatened that they can also activate nuclear. So if Israel and the United States supports Israel to use nuclear, and the United States does not stop the bombardment by Israel of the Palestinian territories, it will mean everybody will take matters in their own hands and do as they please. So Israel is threatening the stability of the global system by its conduct against the Palestinian people. And the United States support of Israel is enabling Israel to threaten the global system of a mass system and good governance. And that makes a peaceful global order by DERCO. Consultation on what? They will brief us on the situation, what can be done, and other things that they have to do. And that recall for consultation is a serious signal that South Africa takes a very dim view on the situation that is currently permeating in that part of the world. On what will be done to the ambassador, that's why we leave it to DERCO. They are the experts of what should be done to the ambassador. Our responsibility as cabinet is to instruct them to say the conduct and remarks of that ambassador are unacceptable. He is a guest in our country, and he must conduct himself as a guest in our country. He has no right to
to the questions that have been given. I see on our virtual line we no longer have any questions, and also in the press room we don't have any questions. Therefore, this brings us